Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Apologies if I'm a little sluggish today. I got my second dose of the vaccine yesterday and I am absolutely exhausted. Had sweats and chills all night long, barely slept, but we here anyway, producing content because how could I leave you guys hanging? There's no way I'm going to stop the grind. So here we are, another day, another Giants episode, and today we're talking about an interesting rumor that has been circling the past couple of days, and that is a potential trade up for Kyle Pitts. At number 4, number 6, whatever it might be. The Giants only have 6 draft picks. Obviously, we love Kyle Pitts. I love Kyle Pitts. The guy has Megatron type of stature. He has incredible size, incredible 50-50 catch radius and abilities. He's unbelievable when you give him a chance in coverage, and the guy makes splash plays very, very frequently. He's going to be a stud at the NFL level. He's essentially Darren Waller day one. And that's pretty exciting for a team like the Giants, who are like, Evan Engram can't catch a pass, but Kyle Pitts offers us so freaking much in the passing game as an inline blocker as well. So that's really interesting. But I want to just read a quote real quick from Dave Gettleman. And this is for the people that think they might be reaching for a pass rusher in the first round at 11, maybe. Let's say the Giants sit pretty at 11 and they have, a bunch of players on the board. A lot of people think, just please don't reach for a pass rusher that we don't necessarily need. And I don't think they're going to, based on this answer from Gettleman. He said, when you're splitting hairs, it's okay to take the 96 grade instead of the 98, because really what you're doing is you're splitting hairs. This is what he said prior to last year's draft. It's when you have a 98 and then you've got an 88, that's not splitting hairs anymore. Even if the 88 is the bigger position of need, once you start reaching, you've created issues for yourself. So, keep in mind, a lot of these pass rushers, it's a very weak class. There's no way they're being graded very highly, in my opinion. So I think they have in probably the mid-80s to low 90s range for some of these pass rushers. And I think they're doing a lot of evaluation to, find one maybe in the second round. So we'll see what goes on there, my friends. But for the most part, the idea of trading up for Kyle Pitts is very, very interesting. We don't have much draft capital. I don't see the cause or the reason for it. But let's play a little devil's advocate, Anthony. And before we dive into it, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing real good, and I think that this Kyle Pitts rumor is really interesting because, like you mentioned, the Giants don't have a ton of draft capital. But it sounds like they're very enticed by Kyle Pitts, as most of the draft community and draft analysts are. Kyle Pitts is a guy who many analysts, and I kind of agree with the sentiment, has Hall of Fame potential, right? Like when Saquon Barkley came into the league, right, and he was in the draft, we said he has Hall of Fame potential. I kind of feel the same way about Kyle Pitts, and I know that I've seen people say the same thing, just because of what he does as a receiver, tight end, and all of those things combined. He has the size, speed, playmaking ability. He's a unicorn, but in the most extreme sense, that he is like a Calvin Johnson-sized wide receiver skilled player who's playing tight end and actually does manage to make plays while in line at tight end. He's not just a wide receiver. The dude's an incredibly rare talent. I don't know if we've ever seen a Kyle Pitts enter the league before. This is a rare occurrence to see a unicorn like Kyle Pitts, enter the league. So when people say he has this Hall of Fame potential, I see it. Now, we know that Dave Gettleman, back in 2018, when everyone was looking at Saquon Barkley as the next Hall of Fame guy, that was his argument for taking him. He said, I think that Saquon is a gold jacket guy, so I could not pass up on him at number 2. Maybe Dave Gettleman's looking at Kyle Pitts and saying, that's a gold jacket guy. I might have to move up 5 spots and go get him. Now, what would that cost the Giants? Well, the rumor is it would cost a second-round pick, the 11th pick, of course, and then a starting caliber player. Now, would that starting caliber player be a Saquon Barkley, a Jabril Peppers? I don't know. That's where you get really interesting with this conversation, because who are you willing to give up as your starting level player in this trade-up scenario if you are willing to give one up at all? Could be Evan Engram, of course. That makes a lot of sense because, the Dolphins are likely to draft a tight end in Kyle Pitts anyway. But there's a few names that you can float out there, and it's going to be a really interesting scenario if it does play out. I think ultimately this is one, I think the Giants do make a call. They see what the price tag is. Ultimately, with only 6 draft picks in this entire draft class for the Giants, I don't think that they can get a deal done. I don't think they have the draft capital necessary. But I think it's an interesting scenario, and I'm curious to see what your take on it is, Alex.
If they traded up for Kyle Pitts, and I love Kyle Pitts, it would be probably one of the biggest mistakes they can make. The absolute biggest mistakes they can make. And the reason why is because you have 4 to 5 quarterbacks projected to go in the top 10 picks, meaning that there are 5 to 6 players who are categorized as elite who are going to be available at 11. They range from Jamar Chase to Penei Sewell to Rashawn Slater to Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Micah Parsons. Those are 6 players right there. One of those guys is going to fall to the Giants at 11. And whichever one does, you can make the argument that any of those 6 guys I just listed will have a better or equal career to Kyle Pitts. You know what I mean? Giving away 11, a second rounder when you already don't have many picks to begin with, and a starting caliber player just for a player who may or may not have a better career than the guy that you could draft at 11 anyway is malpractice. That would be a massive mistake. And I don't think they're going to do that. And I'll tell you why. Let's steer clear of Dave Gettleman for a second and think about Joe Judge. Think about last year. The Giants elected to take all 4 of their 7th round picks and not trade any of them away, not package them for different players or trade up to the 5th round or whatever it might be. They took all 4 7th-round picks. So what does that tell you? They really, really value those draft selections. They value the player and not like the whatever value that draft pick has. You know what I mean? Whether it's like I don't know, like a second rounder's worth, a 4th or a 5th. They value the players that they're getting, and they see them as potential fits on special teams. We know Joe Judge is a big special teams guy. He wants to build out that unit. I don't see him getting on board with trading up and giving away draft capital when this team still has holes they need to fill, especially in the second round on the offensive line, just to get Kyle Pitts. If you get Kyle Pitts, you're dooming Daniel Jones behind a shaky offensive line that I don't feel confident about right now. Your second round pick, you could get a guy like Wyatt Davis, Creed Humphrey, Landon Dickerson, Quinn Miners, who we interviewed. There's a whole crop of really good players, interior guards and centers in the second round and 3rd rounds. Giving away draft capital would be a massive mistake because you could still get Devonta Smith at 11, and there's reason to believe he'll have an even better career. As a guy who can play multiple alignments at the NFL level, you could make the argument that they're equal. Who knows? Who really knows what these guys were going to look like at the NFL level? All it takes is one injury for a career to be over in a blink of an eye. Think Ryan Shazier, even Saquon Barkley, who can't stay on the field. I'm not willing to trade up for a player who I think we have a ton of great options at 11 for. There's going to be a fantastic player that drops. And even if it's a quarterback, you could always trade back and get more capital, more players, more value. At 15, you could get a guy like Rashad Bateman, and I'd be jumping off the walls. Jumping off the walls for Rashad Bateman or Azeez Ojulari from Georgia if you traded back. I'm still in the trade back boat, but if you go Waddle, you go Smith at 11, or Parsons, or even Rashawn Slater, I'm happy as hell, man. It would be a really, really difficult for them to mess this up for me in my mind. It's pretty straightforward. Let the draft come to them. Be patient. And if they have guys that are ranked 98, 97, 96, let's say it's Micah Parsons, Devonta Smith, and Jalen Waddle. They all have very, very closely ranked. You can just say, I'll take the best player for our need. You can go BPA at that position, but if you have them ranked similarly, you can go with which player is going to fit and need more on our team at that point. You know what I mean? The concept of yes, best player available, but if you have 3 guys that are rated similarly, you can take the one that you need the most. So that's what the Giants come to the position they're in right now. There's so many elite players. They can go BPA, but they can also take the best player that fits their scheme, fits their needs right now, because they're all probably going to be graded very similarly.
Yeah, that's true. With best player available, that's the argument that Dave Gettleman made when he selected Daniel Jones in 2019. He said, and you could say whether or not you believe him, but what he said was he really liked Josh Allen and wanted to take him at 6, but he had Josh Allen right here with this grade, and then he had Daniel Jones just a peg under or on the same line with his grade, so he went with the quarterback because it's a more valuable position. Now, I don't know if you necessarily believe that because, for the most part, analysts, scouts, everyone said that Daniel Jones was not a top 10 pick. Everyone said that Josh Allen is a top 10 pick. So I don't know how much I believe that he had them on the same line, but if, either way, that is basically the same line of thought that you're explaining there, Alex. Say he has offensive tackle Penei Sewell on this line, and then he has Micah Parsons on the same line. Well, the Giants need an offensive tackle more than they need a linebacker, so he might go with Penei Sewell in that scenario. But again, with Kyle Pitts, you mentioned, you wouldn't be willing to give up that second round pick to move up to number 6 overall for Kyle Pitts. Now, here's what I'll say. What if it's a future second round pick? What if it's a 2022 second round pick? Does that change your mind? No.
I still value the future. Like if the Giants go into this upcoming season and they have holes at specific positions, they just spent a crap load of money. They need their draft picks. You know what I mean? They need those picks because if you don't have money to spend in free agency, which they probably won't have much next season because they just spent a lot of it, you're going to need those draft picks to solve holes and to plug those positions. So I think that if they had a ton of money next offseason, sure, that's fine. You could give it away, but I think with what they did this offseason, that draft capital becomes ever more important.
I agree, but if it's a future, you have time to potentially recoup that pick. You have a whole year to get it back via some other trade, or you can trade down next year and make that your point of emphasis. Say, I am trading down next year and recouping a second round pick. You can always do something like that. So I think the future thing isn't necessarily like you're disregarding the future. It's just giving yourself more flexibility and
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying in terms of being able to maneuver, do something now that's not going to have a major impact on this year's draft. So you can
Right.
still operate with a fluid draft capital with what you got now, but not worry about it until next year and then find a way to recoup it, which is what a lot of teams do, by the way. But
Mhm.
my argument is like more or less, how much higher is Kyle Pitts rated than Devonta Smith? You know what I mean? Or Jalen Waddle or Micah Parsons. How much? I think Micah Parsons is probably a 99 on their board, maybe a 99, but that one point is the allegations, is the off the field issues. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
Kyle Pitts is, I mean, he's incredible, but it's hard to say where their draft board looks like.
I'll say personally, I know who cares, right? But personally, I have Kyle Pitts pretty far ahead of Devontae Smith. I think that they're two completely different classes of players in terms of variability, right? Like Devontae Smith, we really know what he did in college. We know how phenomenal he is. We know how talented he is. Excellent route runner. But we still have this huge question of his size and weight and all of that, right? And that does drag him down boards. Kyle Pitts has zero question marks. Like, there's not a single question mark for Kyle Pitts. We know how great he is and everything that he does. There's like nothing to really question there, and I think that's kind of where it comes into the place where do you want to sit and pick and take your chance on this really talented player, or do you want to just move up and secure a guy that you feel like is going to be a star? And that's where it gets really nuanced. And then I think, of course, the HOF discussion, right? If he believes that this is a Hall of Fame player, he might really feel compelled to just trade up and take him because he's getting a Hall of Famer. But then, you know what? This is another discussion we have to have in terms of this whole topic, right, Alex? Do you trust the Giants after they draft Kyle Pitts to use him properly? Do you trust Jason Garrett to get the most out of Kyle Pitts? Is it even worth it to mortgage a future pick or a pick in this year's draft for Kyle Pitts if you don't know how to use him right? That's a really good question. What do you think of that, Alex?
You can't go into the draft thinking about how your coach is going to mess a player up. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think Gettleman's sitting there because let's be honest here. If they didn't want Jason Garrett as their coach, if they thought, Jason Garrett, there's no way he's going to be able to make Kyle Pitts a Hall of Fame player or a Pro Bowl player, he would have been fired two years ago. You know what I mean? Like, he would have never even been considered. If the general manager in the front office don't think a coach can get it done, can't maximize the player's potential, they're not going to hire them. They're going to fire them if they're already hired. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that argument has any weight in terms of drafting Kyle Pitts. I think it's more or less, like you said, is he a Hall of Fame player or is he a player with upside? The player, is he a Hall of Fame day one? Is he Saquon Barkley in Gettleman's eyes? Because Saquon Barkley, without the injuries, who knows what he would have accomplished by now? Injuries are part of football, and especially at the running back position, which is why we reflect on that now. But Kyle Pitts at tight end. Tight ends don't traditionally have like a crazy injury history and pretty normal, pretty average, I'd say. So I'd say it's a luxury pick, but Kyle Pitts is different. I would never suggest a team take a tight end in the first 5 to 10 picks, but Kyle Pitts is no normal tight end. He can play in the slot. He can play Z. He can play X on the outside. He can play in line. He has room to develop his frame as a blocker. He's an incredible athlete. The guy he fits Jason Garrett's scheme actually to perfection. He doesn't drop the football. But again, what happens now if you trade? The only way this works is if Evan Engram is part of the deal, right? Because you can't roll into the season with Evan Engram, Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Rudolph. The only way this works, and we've seen Joe Judge how much he loves Evan Engram, so I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think all signs point away from this, actually. But I'll tell you this. If any deal were to happen, I would bet money that Evan Engram is included in it. If they're going to go draft Kyle Pitts, Evan Engram is the starting caliber player that you mentioned before that is paired with this deal. Because otherwise, I mean, I guess you could just find another trade partner for him. We know teams want him. But, what is his value now? He's on the final year of his deal, $6 million. Teams are struggling with cap space. What is his value? He drops a ton of passes. I mean, I think a perfect team for him would have been like the 49ers, but they have Kittle already. A team that has a vertical offense. I don't really know. Like, what team would you see Evan Engram thriving on?
I think the Dolphins would be a pretty good fit for him. I think that they know how to get the most out of their players. I think that they like some guys who are more dynamic and athletic. I think that realistically, Evan Engram would be a good fit with the Miami Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa. They have Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki and Evan Engram are very similar players. Mike Gesicki is an uber athletic tight end who's not necessarily the best blocker, but is really athletic and goes out there and is a real matchup nightmare. So basically, with Evan Engram, yeah, both Penn State players, but I think that Pat Freiermuth is more of a traditional inline blocking tight end and
he's
receiver.
Not the best blocker is the thing. Like, I think him and Gesicki actually are pretty similar in terms of the way they play, just like really big bodies. Either way, sorry, going off on a little tangent.
Well, yeah, okay.
I'll let you continue.
Well, I'll just say I think that the way that Freiermuth is used is more traditionally in line. With Gesicki, he lines up slot, like you can move him all over the place because I don't know if you remember what he did at his combine, but he broke like records for tight end measurables at his combine. Like, it was insane. Gesicki's an uber athlete. Evan Engram was a similar way. Evan Engram is arguably the fastest tight end in the NFL. He is a weapon. He is a dynamic threat in that regard. So I think that, if you're talking about trading Evan Engram to the Dolphins, you're getting basically Gesicki and then Gesicki 2.0 with Evan Engram, right? So I think that's how they would look at it, and I think that could potentially make a lot of sense for the Dolphins if they were to trade down with the Giants in this scenario to say, I want Evan Engram in return, because that's basically getting a more established version of Mike Gesicki anyway. So I think that does make sense. I think Evan Engram is a good fit with the Miami Dolphins.
I can see it. I mean, they want to put as many pieces as they can around Tua, and they still have the 11th overall pick, but they could honestly walk away with Evan Engram and Devonta Smith or Jalen Waddle, you know what I mean, or Rashad Bateman. They walk away with two premier weapons, or even Rashawn Slater, Elijah Vera Tucker, whatever you want to go with. But I like that. Actually a very interesting scenario. But again, you're talking. We're probably going. You're giving away 11, Evan Engram, and next year's second round pick, because I can't imagine they want to get rid of any picks this year. So that's what you'd be going for. But again, I don't necessarily care for Kyle Pitts if you have Micah Parsons, Jalen Waddle, or Devonta Smith on the board. That's like where I cross the line. It's like, you don't need to do this. You don't need to do this. You have Evan Engram, you have Kyle Rudolph. Get a playmaker day one. Don't get rid of any capital. Don't get rid of assets. The Giants should only be adding assets, not getting rid of them. That's how I feel personally about this scenario. But it is very interesting because we're about 9 days away from the draft. And there's a lot of crazy stuff happening. Like, there's talks for teams moving up and down and sideways. And I'm super, super excited, Anthony. I'm really excited to see what the Giants do here. I hope they remain patient. I hope they let the draft come to them. And I hope they don't make any premature moves where they put themselves in a position where they are about to lose capital unless they are 100% sure. And look, I know Dave Gettleman falls in love with prospects. I know he falls in love, but I think this is more of a collaborative thing now. I think this is Joe Judge in the Gettleman show. This isn't the Gettleman show. I thought Pat Shurmur was, I think he had a say in Daniel Jones, but I think Gettleman fell in love with him. I think Saquon Barkley was 100% Gettleman and Chris Mara, personally. There are a lot of factors here, guys. This isn't 1, 2 people. It's 3, 4, 5. Patrick Graham's in the mix. It's crazy. And they're doing a lot of scouting because, like, we spoke to Afadi Odenigbo, in the exclusive interview we did. I know you guys listened to that too. And Afadi told us he hadn't even spoken to Patrick Graham. And that tells me one thing. Patrick Graham is evaluating talent right now. He's not talking to free agent signings. He's going to evaluate draft prospects. That's what they're doing right now. So very interesting scenarios, guys. I'm curious to what your thoughts are. Would you do this? Let us know in the comment section below on YouTube. And Anthony, you got any last words?
Yeah, I think that, this was an interesting rumor scenario that came out. But I think more realistically, the Giants, are they going to trade up or trade down? I think they're more likely to trade down. I think the Giants have done extensive research on edge rushers in this class, and I think there's a really good chance that they trade down and take an edge rusher. I think that's far more likely than them trading up for Kyle Pitts. But I guess we'll see, right? 9 days away. We'll see. You know that we'll be on here live on the YouTube channel, reacting to every single pick that goes down. Please tune into that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be interacting with you guys, maybe even bring you guys onto the stream and have really good discussion with all of you as we react live to the first round of the draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. But like I said, I think that the Giants are more likely to trade down than trade up for Kyle Pitts. But I want to ask you one more time, Alex. Let's say that the Giants did trade up for Kyle Pitts. They traded up to 6. They gave up a second-round pick this year, 11, and Evan Engram. Now, let's say they did that. Are you pissed off by it? Are you excited by it? How do you feel if it were to happen?
Look, I love Kyle Pitts, guys. Kyle Pitts is one of the most incredible prospects I've ever seen. He's a unicorn. He's the modern-day tight end. He has All-Pro written on him on day one. Would I be upset about it? Of course I wouldn't be upset about it. We have freaking Kyle Pitts. I'm not going to be upset about getting one of the best players in the freaking draft, top 5 talent. No, I will not be upset about it. I will be a little bit concerned about the draft capital that we lost, and obviously I trust them. I trust Joe Judge and them to figure out how to recoup that lost capital, but I'm not going to be upset about having a generational talent potentially with Hall of Fame upside. I'm never going to be upset about that. That's how I feel.
I feel the same way. I would probably be a little bit more excited, but with a little bit of concern. And it's kind of, hate to make this comparison, how I felt when the Giants drafted Saquon Barkley. Because at the time, I was like, oh my God, I know this is the wrong decision. But I'm super excited to see Saquon Barkley play for the Giants because I know he's got Hall of Fame potential. He should be amazing. So it's kind of a similar thing where I'm excited, but I'm concerned. I'm like, I don't think this was the best decision. This could come back to haunt us. Giants should have traded down. Ultimately, that's what we think now. But if they were to move up for Kyle Pitts, I'd say, I think this could haunt us. This lack of draft capital can be a real problem, but I'm so excited to watch Kyle Pitts in Big Blue. Can't wait to see that. Ultimately, though, I don't think this happens. I think the Giants stick and pick at 11 or they trade down. Guess we'll find out in 9 days, man. Like I said, I really can't wait.
Me too, my friends. Me too. Really excited. So if you didn't already, make sure to comment below on what you think of this entire scenario on YouTube. Make sure to turn on your notifications on Apple and Spotify. And much love, as always. Thank you for the support and the kind words you guys always express to us. So it really means a lot to us. And the feedback, make sure to always leave your comments and suggestions and advice and feedback and, your opinions, really. We want to talk to you guys, so that means a lot. And we know we have a really, really awesome community here. And we plan to be creating so many amazing videos and so much awesome content in the near future. And we can't wait to share it with you all. And we will catch you guys on the next video.